Hi, thank you for watching Inspired with Jackie. I'm your host, Jackie, and today I have a fantastic guest here today. And my guest is Amista Phillips. She's a formerly Navy veteran, and she's a writer, author, and she has some books that she's been writing on. And so we're excited to have her here today at Inspired, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, Mr. We're fellow veterans. You're Navy, I'm Air Force, which we know the best one.
The easiest one.
The easiest one, nah.
The chair force.
No. But tell me a little bit about your military life. Are you originally from Ohio?
I'm not. So I'm originally from Arizona.
Okay.
Born and raised there, and joined the Navy. Left through Phoenix, Arizona. Headed to Chicago, where they have Navy boot camp now.
So what made you decide to join the Navy out of all the branches?
Out of all the branches.
Yeah, out of all the branches.
My family is a Navy family.
Okay.
Not while I was a child. Everyone got out before, kids and stuff were born.
Mm-hmm.
But both sides, my grandparents on both sides, my dad and my brother were all Navy.
Okay, so Navy family.
Yeah.
Decided to, now, are you the only girl in your family?
I'm the only girl that went into the service.
Okay.
There's other women in the family, but they didn't join the service.
And how long did you serve?
I was in for 2 years. I was on board a ship out of San Diego.
Okay, and that's where I'm born.
Oh, no
That's where I
way.
was born. Yeah, I was born in San Diego.
San Diego's lovely.
Yes, I love it, love it, love it. So you did 2 years. Did you do your full time in San Diego?
So I spent some time in Chicago. That was my A school and boot camp, and then I was stationed in San Diego.
Wow. Now, was that something you request? Because I know with the Air Force, when we're in basic training, they give us like a list of hope list of where you want to be stationed at. Was that California on your list?
Kinda. So they give you a choice of like East Coast, West Coast, overseas. That's it. Those are your choices. So my first choice was West Coast because
Okay.
that's kind of where I'm from, and then overseas because like that's cool.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then East Coast because literally that's what was left.
Were you stationed at 32nd Street?
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I live right down the street from
That's so
there.
funny. I was off of Home Avenue. Like the base housing is not on the base. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay, so you went in for 2 years, and why did you decide to get out?
So it's really weird, but I had chronic motion sickness. Normally, as a sailor, it takes about 10 days out to sea for you to kind of acclimate, get your sea legs. I did not acclimate.
Wow.
We were out for 6 weeks, and I got really sick and lost a lot of weight. So that was a medical discharge.
Okay, so wouldn't they be able to put you on shore instead of? Are you required? I don't know too much about the Navy.
So normally they could, but because I hadn't been in for 3 years, you can't. There was no open availability for shore leave or shore station, and I hadn't been in long enough to change my job to something that was more shore based.
Okay.
So it was get out.
So what did your job entail while you were in the Navy?
So I was a gunner's mate. What that means is the small weaponry on board a ship is what I would take care of. So like handguns, shotguns, and then there's rifles that are pretty powerful, and we took care of those too.
Now, I'm sure that's a male-dominated career.
It is.
It is.
Absolutely.
How did you feel that you fit in that environment?
After boot camp, it was kind of like you could fit in anywhere. So like in A school, it wasn't weird because I'd been around hundreds of men for the past like 13 weeks. So it wasn't bad in A school. It wasn't bad anywhere.
Right.
But it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. What weapons did you kind of like find a little challenge to learn?
So I would say the 50 caliber machine gun. That one it wasn't hard to learn, but you have to take it apart and put it together a certain way, or there could be like you could kill someone if you mess up the spring that's inside.
Wow.
Like you could really hurt someone. So that was like nerve-wracking
I bet.
to learn. So I went, you have to go really slow, and I was really nervous every time I dealt with taking it apart.
I'm sure it was like very tedious because we did the only weapons I had in the Air Force was the M16.
Yeah.
So is that something a little bit more larger caliber than the?
So the M16 is smaller, but the mechanisms are very similar. So like when you take apart the M16, I believe there's a spring in there as well. It's kind of the same thing.
Gotcha.
So except that one isn't as powerful. It's not as under as much pressure. So.
Got you. So was that was the military? What did you want to grow up to be in the military? What was it? Something else that you wanted to do when you were growing up?
So yeah, I always wanted to be an author.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. And what inspired you to start writing?
So I always wrote. I was a really, really avid reader, and when I started reading like adult books, I realized that the ideas that I had like were the same. Like I could create my own stories and I didn't have to read someone else's who maybe like it didn't agree with me or I didn't like appreciate the ending or the content. I just make it up myself.
Well, okay. So like when you were growing up and you were reading, could you really see the characters in your head and then help you create your own characters going on with your writing?
This is so weird, but I don't see pictures in my head. So like I would get a sense of the character, and like based on description you can kind of get like a sense of their personality. But a lot of times I would change that in my head because I didn't agree with it. So I would just change the way the character acted and
That you're reading the
that
story.
I'm reading. Yeah, I would change their motivations in my head.
I don't know if the author would want that.
Probably not.
That's interesting. Because when I read, depending on what I'm reading, though, you know, I can visualize,
Yeah.
you know, everything. That's how deep I get in my reading. So, what characters? Let me ask you, who's your favorite authors?
Oh my goodness. So it's
Let's say
kind of
top three.
top three. Okay, Janice Whitaker, who's local.
Okay.
So that was really awesome. Who else? C.L. Wilson. She's a romance author. Janice is also a romance author. And I'd say, I have to say Stephen King.
Oh my gosh.
Like I have to. You can't like not put him on your list.
I know.
As much as you don't want to, you have
I know.
to.
I used to be a very. I don't read as much as I used to, but actually, when I was in the military, I think I did more reading, and a lot of his books are just like
Yeah, they're weird.
awesome.
They're
Yeah.
so good and they're so like out there sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
even when they do the movies, you know, are just like they're
I
kind of
always
some are close to the books and
Yeah.
stuff, which I find.
I always loved the miniseries that they did for his books.
Yeah.
Like some of them aren't good, like sure, but I
Yeah.
don't know. It was like one of those staples when you were growing up. There'd be a Stephen King miniseries on ABC.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wonder why did I do that anymore? I tell you, Pet Cemetery
Oh my God, such a
scared
good book.
me so bad. I felt so bad for any pet or any
Oh
dogs.
my
and
God,
stuff.
that's so good. Though.
Yeah, it
like,
was good.
I remember the part after the cat comes back, and the way that he wrote the scene where the guy finally sees the cat, and it's like, oh, like that tension.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that's probably one of my top. I think that one and probably Cujo.
Oh my God, Cujo scared me because everyone loves dogs and like, everyone
Yeah.
loves Saint Bernards, like Beethoven.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that was terrifying.
Okay, so why the genre of romance?
So when I first started out reading, it was all about horror and sci-fi. That was like my thing growing up. And then as I grew up, I kind of gravitated towards not so much romance at first, but more like women's fiction. And then as an adult, probably in my late 20s, someone handed me a romance novel and said, you got to try this. And oh my God, it was the best thing that I had ever read. Better than Stephen King, better than, Dean Koontz.
Now, what was your first book of romance?
It was
you
A Girl's
remember?
Guide to Vampires by Katie McAllister. So she's wonderful too. She's like number 4 of the top.
Of the
3.
top.
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you're a character. You're in your book, or you're writing a book, and you're a character. Would you be in a romance novel or a horror?
Oh my God, romance.
Romance.
I couldn't live through a horror. I could barely read them without like turning on the light and wrapping up in blankets. Like, no, I couldn't survive a horror.
Interesting. And when did you start writing?
So I started writing. The first thing I could remember is in second grade, and I wrote a poem for one of those books that your teacher will print, and it's like not special, but it was just this little book of poems that everyone in the class printed, and mine was on the second page, and I thought that was important, and I was like, I came in second. Like, this is amazing. And then I always wanted to write after that because I thought I was a winner.
That's awesome. Well, you are a winner.
I'm such a winner.
Yes, you are. Even from that moment on, you are a winner. So let's say you wanted to write a story about someone that's a heroine. Who would you write? Or how would you
I'm
write
going to get
that
so
character?
nerdy here. There's a woman, her name is Grace Murray Hopper. She was in the Navy, and she is one of the first women in programming. She created this language called COBOL, and it's still in use today. This is from like the 40s. But she was also a Navy wave, which is the first women in the Navy, a part of World War II. So she's really cool. And then she was a mathematics professor at a couple of like Vassar and Yale. But she did, she was on the team that did like the premier work for those big supercomputers that, old school punch cards. She created a language for that.
Really?
Yes.
I would have to check her out.
Grace Murray Hopper. She's amazing. It's such a cool story. I love her. I actually put her on my blog. I've got a blog post about her on my website.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we're going to have to check your website out, and we'll have the information. I believe we got the information for that.
Okay.
Now, how is it you work full time?
I do work full time.
You have a family.
I have 4 children.
And 2 dogs and a pear tree, partridge and a pear tree?
A dog and 2 cats.
Okay.
Well, and a husband. So it's like 5 kids.
Wow. Awesome. And how long you guys been married?
22 years.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's
we met when I was 19.
Did you guys meet in the military?
No, we met at my going away party for boot
In the
camp.
military.
Yes, we met 19 days before I left for boot camp.
Wow.
Yes.
And he said, I'm going to keep her.
Yeah, so I went to boot camp, and we didn't connect at first. But after boot camp, I got to A school, and you get to make phone calls and stuff.
Yeah.
So we kind of got back in touch. He quit his job in Arizona to move to Cincinnati so that he could come see me every weekend in Chicago.
That is a
Yes,
beautiful
right?
love story.
I know, we have the best story.
No, why don't you write about that?
I am.
Okay.
I will be. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. And you said 22 years you guys been
22
together?
years, yeah, in March.
Wow. So what advice would you give the listeners as far as the longevity of a marriage?
It's like you hear it all the time, and it's kind of cheesy, but communication. Like if you're upset, you have to tell your partner because they don't know. They're not psychic. So when you're feeling upset, especially if you're upset with them, you have to communicate that. You have to have a dialogue or else you're just going to sit in your head stewing about it, and they don't even know what's going on. They can't fix it until you tell them.
And that's gotten you guys through all the years of that communication.
Clearly, I'm a talker, so I have no problem coming to whoever it is and saying, "Look, there's something we need to clear up."
That's good, and that's very good advice, because you do need to communicate in order to, solve issues or, just showing the person that you love them.
Yeah.
Or actually telling them. You can show them, but you can tell them too.
Make sure to tell them.
Yeah.
Because they need to hear it.
That's great. And your kids, they enjoy mommy's writing, or is it?
So they don't read it. Okay. I have some work that's not romance, so it's suitable for younger ages.
Okay.
But it's kind of, I don't think they'd be interested in it, so I never offered for them to read it. When they're adults, though, I'd be happy to have them.
Would you be interested in writing children's books at some point?
Yes. What was his name? Abner the Oxalotl, I think, was the character for a series of short stories I was going to do about an oxalotl who travels the world into all these different lakes and then as he's there, you learn about the lakes and the people around it. And so, yeah. I haven't done it yet because I'm kind of consumed with the current book. But
Okay, I got you. What would be your favorite children's book?
oh my gosh, what is it called? I Love You Forever. Oh my God, I love you forever. I'll love you for always. As long as you're living, my baby, you'll be, is what the mom sings to her child.
Aww.
And she does that throughout his life. She even goes to his house when she's really old and he's an adult, and she holds him and sings that song. And then the husband or the son has a baby and the mom has passed, and he sings that song to his baby. Oh my God.
No.
That's beautiful.
Are they like animals or they're actually
No, these are people.
People.
Yeah,
okay.
they're people. The mom has like gray hair and a bun, and she's all hunched over, and it's very cute.
Okay.
Very, very cute.
Wow, that's awesome. So, what books do you read today?
So I still mainly read romance. I'll read subgenres of romance. Like there's the protector genre. So the men and sometimes the women, their job is in a protection environment, like security or military. And the purpose of the book is so that the hero can save the heroine. So that's in the protector genre. That's what I write in. But you can have like rom-coms, which I love, which is romantic comedy.
Comedies, okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, like the rom-coms. Would you ever want to write like a movie script and have your book on screen?
Yes. Like I don't think I would write the script, but like I would like assist and say like, oh yeah, that's okay, you can do that. But I would love the second book that I'm looking at writing. I would love for that to be a TV, like a movie or a TV show.
And why is that?
I don't know. It's based off of a situation that I heard about on TikTok, and it's a farm. It's a farm animal rescue. And on Animal Planet, those shows are really popular. So you could have a little, fiction TV show that's based on my book. That would be awesome.
Now, do you use any of your military experience in your writing?
I do. Something that always bugged me about romance covers, and this is going to be a weird nitpick, is when there's a gun on the cover, the hero will have his finger on the trigger. But you're not supposed to put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to fire. So why would you willy-nilly put your finger on a trigger, even if it's just a picture? So that always bugged me. So that was something that I wanted to, do in my books and make sure that the military aspect, the weapons aspect, are true and they don't pull the reader out by being like shockingly wrong.
Okay. Yeah, that little bit of information, I never, really took a look at that. So that's interesting that you noticed that. So what are your future aspirations in your writing?
So eventually, the goal eventually is to be a professional author, doing that full time. I don't have any short-term goals related to that, but I do have long-term goals, which, to ultimately be able to support myself and my family as a writer.
Awesome. And I know you have a short story book that you've written.
I do, yeah.
And you want to tell us a little bit about
the
short story book?
The short story is Designated Driver.
Designated Driver.
It's a prequel to the full-length novel Extreme Lengths, which will be out in the fall. But it details the first meeting of the two main characters, Quinn Wales and Josie Reese. It's the first time they meet at a club. It's a very short story, maybe 4 pages, about that interaction.
Well, we
and
can
then
talk about
the
that too.
full-length
I got
story
some
picks up a
little
few months
notes
after
here.
that.
Okay, so Designated Driver
is the short
story.
Yeah.
Okay. And what inspired you to write that one?
So originally, the original story was inspired by a song by Sublime called Caress Me Down. And it's kind of about like a forbidden romance, and that's kind of how the story started, is a forbidden trope that you can't be together. Originally it was because he was in the military and she was like a criminal or something. I don't remember, it was like 10 years ago. But as the years progressed and as my personality and views, grew and changed, I wanted to alter the story to better match where I am today.
Okay.
So it's not the same. It's
So-
a lot not the same.
So where are you at today? Your mindset?
Oh, my mindset.
Yeah.
So where I am now is I'd like to call attention to military members after they get out of service. What they go through in those first few months. And then I have some characters where they've been out for years and what they go through even today after their military service. So that's what the books, it's like the deeper meaning of the books that I'd like to explore is what happens to us after we get out of the military.
So why is that so important to you to have your readers see that aspect of someone that's been out the military?
So I don't think most people realize, even if you only spend a little time in the military, that first, 6, 8, 12 weeks, you are being trained and taught to be a whole different type of person. And the rest of your time in the military, you are that person that you've been trained and built to be. And then you get out and you're not that person anymore.
Absolutely.
What are you supposed to do?
Absolutely.
Like, how do you work? How do you deal with people that don't have the same mindset as you, civilians?
Yes.
And it's just, I was only in 2 years, and that shock of coming back to civilian life, nobody prepares you for it. Nobody knows what it's like, but they're veterans.
Yes.
So,
And that's an interesting point that you're making because did you go in right after high school?
I signed up at 17, and then I left the day before I turned 18.
Yeah. See, I went in like you right after high school, and the person that you grow up in a household and you're trained these different rules and everything, and then you go in the military and it's a totally different lifestyle. And once you, like you said, learn the aspects of being in the military life and then getting out, it is a culture shock.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I lived on base off and on base, but how to do different things. It's almost like, and I hate to equivalate, but a person in prison.
No, I think it's the same.
You think it's the same?
That institutionalized mentality, 100%.
Interesting.
I 100% believe they are the same mindset and like psychological. I totally believe it.
Wow. Yeah, I remembering getting out, and actually I was in Sacramento, and I went back to San Diego. And, the far as, going to rent a place and this and that and the other, it's just like, what in the world am I getting myself into?
When I joined, I had never lived alone, so I had never had to go get a place. So, I bought a car when I was in the military. I'd never bought a car. I didn't know what to do. And so when I got out, how do you go find a house?
Yeah.
Like, do you go to an apartment? Do you just show up? Like,
yeah.
Do you have to pay to go see it? What are the rules?
Did you live in a barracks?
So I lived in an apartment complex that was military owned. So they just gave you a key. It said your apartment's over here, and then you go to your apartment.
Right.
And it's all military members. So for me, it was all Marines and Navy. So everyone does the same thing as me. All the spouses could connect with my husband because they knew what it was like it was a supportive environment. And when you get out, you don't have that environment anymore.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned being in the military. Is like you gain another family.
Yeah.
And I lived overseas for 4 years, and being away so far from my family, you gain, another entity of what family really means.
That's actually something I explore in the books too. The trope is called found family, or the family that you choose. So that's something that I explore a lot in the book, alongside the military stuff.
And I think that's a good thing for non-veterans or people, like you said, civilians that haven't been in the military, to kind of see our side of how we connect as a family in the military, and then when we get out, how we connect with others, or even our own family. Because when you're away for so long, different places,
you come back a different person.
Yeah, you definitely
You're not
come
the
back.
person you were when you left, and your family has to get reacquainted with that person.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, the whole process of leaving the military is really difficult
Yeah. Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you feel when you did get out the military?
At first, I was totally lost because I full-fledged went into this knowing that I was going to be in for 20, 30 years. That was the goal. And when it was cut short, I didn't know what to do. I had no life plans because my life plans were gone.
Right, right.
So there was a lot of like soul searching before I could really settle down and like be a civilian.
And the career, one of the main things I wanted to do when I went in was to, if I did get out, have a type of occupation where, it would be easy for me to get a job. So how challenging would it be to like, put an application, say, oh, I worked on 50 caliber weapons.
Right. So it sounds cool in an interview. If the company is like pro-veteran, then that's like a total in.
Okay.
They're like, oh, you know that? But then some companies are very like conservative. And then that's like, oh my God, you used all those weapons? I don't think you're very safe. So yeah, it's kind of like a catch-22.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel where they're, equivalent to, okay, especially being a female too?
Yeah.
Maybe a guy, they probably, but they probably could have felt intimidated by it.
I think that's what it was, is that my life experience is so different. And it sounds weird, but it's geared towards violence. And to bring that into an office setting, I can see where people might be worried about it. But I mean, just because you come out of the military doesn't mean you're insane or anything. You're still a person.
Right.
You still have a personality. You could still do all the jobs you did before.
So as we're both women veterans, have you felt that men, because I do know that there's a lot of men that have a lot of benefits, male veterans, they kind of cater towards men veterans. How do you feel as a woman veteran, how you've been treated since you've been out the military?
So I kind of stayed away from the veteran community for a long time. But for my own experiences, I never had anything negative directed towards me. But people will assume it was your husband who served. My husband was not in the military. I was. I did it. I would like the recognition. People will ask questions about it to my husband as if I didn't do it. So it's a little, attributing my work to my husband or like my son who looks like an adult. It's a little weird. Yeah.
Interesting. So in going back to your writing, what inspired you to write this character? Tell us about this character.
The main character is Quinn Wales. He is physically, his inspiration was Tim Tebow. So that's what he looks like. He's a former Marine. The book starts with him like within a day of getting out and finally like transitioning to civilian life. Let me think. When I built the characters, I used something called personality typing. There's something called Enneagram, and there's something called the Myers-Briggs. So they're personality tests. So I kind of went through those personalities and picked one, like, that sounds like a guy who's been in the military for 7 years, and this is a trait that I really like, and I think it would work well. So I kind of like picked and chose from different personality types to build the character that interested me.
Interesting. So is this like your dream man other than your husband?
Yes, this is Quinn Wales it's a book boyfriend. They call them book boyfriends, and he is mine.
Oh, that is hilarious. So what about the woman characters?
She's me. So as my first book, I wanted to put some of myself into the character, and I didn't know everything that needed to go into her until like I sat down and tried to look at myself and say, what traits do I want to show to the world? And it was really cool because I was looking at all these things that were awesome about myself, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really awesome. Like, I should never ever be self-conscious because look at all these things that I bring to the table. So that was really, it was an exercise that was like really cathartic and really, healing for someone who, has dealt with low self-esteem. It was an unexpected benefit.
So it was kind of like therapy for you.
Oh, so much. Yes, absolutely.
Interesting. So what would you say that you would take maybe one aspect of the character that you built, and are you applying that trait to yourself, or?
Okay, so yes, Josie Reese is the female character, main character, and she doesn't apologize. She doesn't say something and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way," or "I'm sorry, was I in your way?" Women tend to apologize when they don't need to, and that was something that I didn't want to do anymore. I'm not going to apologize for my existence, or that I might be an inconvenience to you. I shouldn't have to apologize for that. So Josie is very strong. She's very confident, and she doesn't apologize for existing. And that was one of my favorite things to write about her. And it's also been one of my favorite things to apply to myself in like my real life.
And that's beautiful, because I think your readers will take that and apply it to them, because like you said,
I hope so.
Yeah, I think that's a great trait to put into a character that will strengthen your readers. Of this is how I want to be able to say how I feel and not apologize. And
when I write the characters, I definitely want like a strong male lead, but I don't want like a shrinking violet damsel in distress for the female character. She needs to be just as powerful and just as strong as the male character, as her counterpart.
Okay.
So they can be true partners and not one over the other.
Yeah. And that's how it should be.
Yes, that's the goal.
That's
so,
the goal.
And that's what romance explores, is the different types of relationships that you can have, and how those relationships affect everything outside in the rest of your life.
So let's talk about this pen name, this author pen name.
Yes.
I know you said there was a story behind that.
It's not like a huge story, but so my author name is Jessie Kenton. I chose it for just a little bit of privacy. I have some family members who wouldn't be thrilled to know that, they've got a relative who writes about sex. So they're a little bit more conservative. So as a barrier, just to keep them a little away from it. I also still work, and it's funny that my work is actually super supportive about my writing, but I did choose a pen name before I found out how supportive they were.
Okay.
So, and I like it. It's my website. It's, my branding, so I'll keep it.
That's and you want to tell them what your pen name is?
Oh yeah, so my pen name is Jessie Kenton.
Kenton. And that is on the books, your pen name.
Yes, it is.
And you have written 2 books.
So I've written one short story,
Okay.
and then the first full-length novel, I'm expecting it to come out in the fall. It's about halfway done.
Okay.
So right now, and it's anticipated to go to the editor in about 3 weeks.
So when do you find time to write? When's your quiet time?
Never. So what I'll try to do is wake up early in the morning. I write in a group of women, and they're in England. So when it's 5 o'clock in the morning my time, it's 6 hours ahead. So we write together. It's very early for me. But we do something called writing sprints, where we write for short periods of time, try to get as much out as we can. And we do that for a couple hours, and then I go to work. And then if I have time during like my lunch break, sometimes I'll try to get words in then. And then at the end of the day, if I have the energy, I'll try to write at least a certain amount of words at the end of the day too.
Gotcha. So what inspired you to join this group?
So
this writing group?
It's on Facebook. There's a lot of different like Facebook groups that are related to independent publishing. So I'm utilizing those groups as kind of like the education on how to be an independent publisher. And within those groups, you just meet other authors. And someone else in the group said, "Hey, does anyone want to sprint?" And about 15 of us said, "We'd love to." So we have a little group, and then whenever someone wants to sprint, they post in the group. And if anyone else is available, they'll get a Google meeting and sprint together.
Do you find that very beneficial
So
to you?
I actually have a very hard time writing if I'm by myself. So like I will write where there's other people. Like my husband will be at his computer desk and I'll be sitting like right behind him and just have, it's weird. Like I don't like to be alone. So it feels like there's some like camaraderie having another person with you as you write.
And so let's touch on the not wanting to be alone. What has that been all your life, or just
I have post-traumatic stress disorder from an occurrence in the military. And since then, I've had a moderate amount of anxiety. And one of those anxieties is being alone. So I tend to go places with someone. I did not bring anyone with me here, though.
and I'm very proud of you that you know taken that
It's a hard step.
Yeah.
It's a hard step to take.
I can imagine. So I appreciate you sharing that with our viewers. PTSD is very prevalent in the military, and that's another show that I'll touch on.
And that's in the book too.
And that's in the book.
Absolutely.
You share that?
Yes, I have two characters
Great.
who are struggling with PTSD, but from different causes.
Okay.
And they're in different points in their journey with PTSD. So and that's something that I deal with that I wanted to bring to civilians who read these books.
Yeah, that's very, and military PTSD. Not saying it's a special case to me. That's something that you may not experience outside the military.
So that's what I was actually thinking in my head as you were speaking. Like there's trauma as a whole, and I think veteran trauma is very specific and very targeted, and you may experience the same physical sort of trauma on the outside world, but because it didn't happen in this bubble of military, it's different.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's real. That's how I feel. That's how I viewed it. That's how I move through my life with that idea.
And it's very, now do you find it very therapeutic to share that part in the characters, and then, for yourself, is it therapeutic for you writing and kind of sharing some
Writing
of it?
is definitely therapy. Not just, writing in books, but I also do short stories and essays. And that is where I get my feelings out, like the raw, visceral. I do that in my short stories and my essays. The book, it's going to have some topics that are a little rough in it, but it's definitely for entertainment. The main point of the book is entertainment. It'll touch on these other subjects, but
And as far as the military parts in it, what do you think is most important that you want the readers to carry out of that?
I think the most important part is you don't see everything. Just because you see a person, it doesn't mean you see their whole life or their whole personality. They have things that they're dealing with that you have no idea. You could never guess based on how they present themselves in public.
Yeah.
And I'd like to show a little bit of that, maybe the lesson, give people some grace. There could be reasons for the reason that they're doing something.
Exactly. And that's, whether it's in the military or out the military, but there's, like we said, there's some specific things that do go on in the military that we don't have that opportunity and to kind of get the justice in the military than you can in the civilian world.
Yeah, it's things that are difficult in the civilian world can definitely be made a million times harder in the military.
In the military. And is this both of the books are based for male and females to read?
So it's romance definitely caters towards women in the way that the men are written. They're often written as emotional, as in harmony with themselves, which some guys aren't. Some guys don't have it in touch with their feminine side, which I try to write my characters, where my men are consent is king and emotions matter. And that's kind of what I want to build into the men that I write. So I'd love for men to read my books. I certainly don't write with the intent to exclude them,
Okay.
but I definitely gear towards women.
Women, yeah, especially with the romance and everything. So let's ask about. We said that about maybe making it into a movie. You would like to make it into the movie. Who would you have playing your main character?
So my dad once said that he thought I looked like Drew Barrymore, and she's so funny, and she's such a strong woman outside of acting.
Mm-hmm.
I think she would be great to play Josie. I think she'd do a really good job.
So would that be like a serious part for her to play?
Yes,
Okay.
it would definitely be a serious part. This is not a comedy. It's considered a romantic suspense, and then the subgenre is like the protector romance. So it's definitely not a comedy.
So who would you have the male playing?
I don't know, because I based him off Tim Tebow, and I don't think that Tim will be like, I'll be in a movie. So
You never know.
you know what? I'll send him a snap, and we'll see what he says.
Hey, let me know, and we'll talk about that on part 2 of the show.
What's Theo James? I think is the guy who played the character 4 in Divergent. I really like him. So I think he's got a lot of range. I think he'd do a really good job.
Great. So you want to tell the viewers how to get in touch with you and
So I have a website. It's www.jessiekenton.com.
Okay.
And if you go there, there's my blog post on Grace Murray Hopper. There's also an opportunity to sign up for my newsletter, and then you'll actually get the link to get the short story for free.
Oh.
And then, of course, I'm on Twitter. Not Twitter, TikTok. I'm on TikTok as Jessie Kenton Author. I'm on Instagram as Jessie Kenton, and then I have a Facebook page that is just Jessie Kenton. Yeah.
Okay, so there's several ways that they can get in
Yeah.
touch. And now, would your book going to be the one that's coming out in the fall? Is it going to be on Amazon or any of those?
So there's a program called Kindle Unlimited. It's a subscription that Amazon has. So the ebook will only be available on Amazon. The paperback will be available anywhere that you can get a paperback at.
Okay. So are you excited that your
Yes.
first novel is coming out?
Yes, it's crazy because I'll always say I'm an aspiring author, or there's a term baby author. And every person in the writing community has always shut me down and said, no, you aren't an author. So that validation, that confirmation that yes, I am an artist, yes, I am an author, that just makes my day.
Hey,
I love it.
You've been an author
I
since
love
second
it.
grade, lady.
Yes. I wish I still had that poem. I bet it was amazing.
Oh, did they give you the book that the teacher?
I'm 42.
Oh.
It's gone.
It's in book heaven.
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to share with the viewers?
I can't think of, I'm great with specific questions, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Well, before we close, I have these cards that I have my guests pick out.
Okay.
You pick one, you read it out loud, and then you tell me how you feel about it.
Okay, yeah.
So just pick one
I'm going to go in the middle here.
and then share it with the
Pop
viewers.
it open. Oh my God. Never sell tomorrow short. There's plenty to get excited about. Be filled with expectation, hope, and confidence. Believe something good is going to happen, and it usually will. What is that? Right? That is perfect. And not just like for my book or for like today's, because I was nervous, but like that's a life thing. Like that is good to go to think of all the time.
So how do you feel about picking out that card?
Come on now. I like wiggled around and I did not take the top card. I like dug down deep, but to find something so relevant to my life right now, to today, I think that's really cool.
That's the show that you have a smile on your face and you're going to apply that, and you're already applying it to your life. So Thank you so much for coming on the show. Well, it was great to have you,
Thank you
my
for
veteran
having
sister.
me.
You're very welcome.
My sister from another mister.
I know. So here we are, a great show, and I want to thank everybody for watching, and see you next time. Inspired with Jackie. Take care.